Purpose isn't something that you find. It's something that comes through you when you stop trying to control what it's supposed to look like and you start following what makes you feel alive. Like, we get so stuck on how we think it should be that we miss what could be.
You're listening to Say It Anyway, the podcast for people who know they're meant for more and are done holding back. I'm Maggie Marcus, and here we talk courage, self-trust, and what it takes to lead yourself, even when it scares the hell out of you.
This week I was reading this book, and in it there were a couple stories about some people who had seemingly kind of stumbled into their purpose, and were living meaningful lives as a result, and successful ones in their own right, in their own way. And I love stories like that. They always inspire me. I love when people find what they're meant to be doing and they do it successfully. But I also noticed that I was feeling envious, which I also tend to feel when I hear stories like that, because purpose is something that I've chased for so long and wanted. And I'm like, why does it feel so easy for some people? Like, they just, found their way into it. and I'm wondering, like, where's my route in? Like, have I missed something? Did I miss the off ramp? Like, why does it feel so hard for me? Why haven't I arrived yet? Like what the heck is going on here? Like, for me, and I'm like evaluating my own life path. One of the stories was this girl who left home at 18. She became an au pair, and the family that she was nannying for was like encouraging her, you should go to hairdressing school at night. So she's like, yeah, I'm going to do that. She goes to hairdressing school and then ends up taking a trip to Thailand, where she finds all this like cheap clothing. And so she comes back home, and then she starts a fashion, like exporting company business, and she becomes successful in that. And then she ends up traveling the world. She meets this man in Brazil, falls in love, and then is living there with him. Eventually she goes back and ends up in the UK. I think this relationship kind of fell apart, and she meets someone else that she falls in love with in the UK. And then they end up, opening this bed and breakfast, and it just seems like a very charmed life. And I'm like, that sounds awesome. Like, I would love a life like that. She like speaks all these different languages, has traveled the world, has successful businesses, And then there was another story. There was this girl. She was a finance student. She went to get her degree. It wasn't really something that she was called to, but she just went and did it. Her parents were encouraging her to do that. It felt stable, all of that. But one day she's walking past this park, and there is an art class going on. And so she decides to just sign up on a whim. And she starts doing this class weekly, ends up posting some of her art on Instagram, and then gets a lot of attention, and ends up being offered a solo like exhibit, like for a gallery. And now she's an artist full time, and doing this like successfully. Like, and I'm just sitting there like, okay. That's cool, man. Like, that sounds like you just didn't really even like have to search really hard. It kind of just happened for you. And like, and like, none of them were like chasing purpose is what I'm trying to say. They just sort of said yes to what felt alive, to whatever life was providing them, offering to them in those moments. And I think from a zoomed out lens, because I realize I don't actually know their full story. I'm just seeing, the dots connected at a high level. Like, I don't know the daily thoughts that they had, the struggles, the doubts, the fears. Like, I don't know. And I don't actually know how long all of this took. So I've got to check myself when I'm in those like moments, especially in comparison. You're like, whoa, hold on, But I think looking backwards, it always looks like, yeah, that makes sense. It feels like destiny. It looks like destiny. It looks like fate in a way. But when you're in the moment, it probably feels really messy and really uncertain. Like they probably didn't know if any of this was going to work out. They were just saying yes. And when I look at my own path, is where I start to really reflect on my own path. The same kind of dots, the same sort of breadcrumbs are there too. I just keep looking for this like big neon sign that's like an arrow going, go this way, go this way. It's here, but it doesn't work like that. When I look back in retrospect, I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. Like I needed to go through that in order to meet that person who then introduced me to that thing where I learned that skill. It all builds on each other, right? Like when COVID hit, I had been working full time in a gym, and then I went online. I started selling my own workout programs. I built a program for women who were struggling with binge eating and wanted to get fit. And then that introduced me to the world of online sales. And as I entered into the world of high ticket sales, that's where I started to meet so many people. I got on an offer for NLP, a personal development program, where I learned a lot about self-concept work. And I actually developed some of that, helped developed the philosophies and the thought leadership that I have now and what I talk about. And I met a lot of great mentors. I learned a lot, like going through sales period was like a personal development program in itself, taught me so much about myself, and challenged a lot of limiting beliefs that I had. And then through that, because I always wanted to get better at sales, I met one of my mentors, Molly, and I went through a personal development program with her, which was all about emotional intelligence and leadership. And that taught me so much about myself. And that took me to the next leadership training that I did, which absolutely transformed my life to a whole other level. And then I turned around and became a coach for that same program. And then through all of that, I was engaging in other online programs to learn, to grow, to pursue coaching, started coaching people. And I started to see like all these dots, right? Like I had to meet this person to learn these things about myself, to be introduced to the next person, to build these skill sets. All of that, as I look back, has contributed to who I am now, where I am now, the skills I need, the mindset, the healing that I needed to do in order for me to get to this point, to even be ready to do what I know deep down I've always wanted to do, with public speaking, with podcasting, with guidance, right? Like with offering something to the world through what I've learned. Like all of this, that is my purpose, and all of that has led me to this. And I'm still very much in the throes of it. But when I look back, I can absolutely see where and why I needed to learn certain things and what led me to, how the dots kind of connect. Even the things that didn't end up being right for me, even the mistakes, quote unquote mistakes that I made, I needed to make. I ended up investing in a $25,000. I've talked about this $25,000 program. More than that, I've invested so much into programs to learn things, to build online offers, to build businesses that were never really meant for me, that I didn't really actually end up wanting in the end. But I needed to go through those to learn certain lessons, to learn things about myself, to heal things in myself, to prepare me for what's to come. Like every step has been connected, even the ones that I was frustrated by and challenged by, especially those, right? Even the ones that kind of felt wrong, but the breadcrumbs have always been there. And I'm sure as I look back later at these very moments, just like I did with these people's stories, I will be able to be like, yeah, that makes sense. Mine might be a little bit more detailed, but that's obviously because I'm the one living in it. One day we'll probably have a different highlight reel that people will look at and similarly say, how did she get there? It seems like she did it very easily, but no, no, it's been a freaking journey. And I'm very much still in the journey, right? Why do we try to control and force our path? Because that has been me, right? I have been like, I wanted it so bad. I was always chasing purpose and feeling fulfilled. And like, I was like trying to get there so quickly. I wanted it. Because I think now I realize that I was feeling like that was the thing that was finally going to free me, that I was finally going to be like, oh, I'm safe now. I've gotten up there. I've arrived. I think that what we want to ensure is that like by forcing it, by controlling it, we're trying to get the outcomes that we want, but not just like the tangible results. It's more that we're chasing a feeling, right? Like I wanted to feel finally happy, free, at peace, joyful, like that's what I think we're really all striving for. No matter what, like your goal looks like, at the end of the day, we're all chasing a feeling. And underneath that control that we're attempting to exert is the ego. The ego is very much running the show. The ego's job is to protect. It defines, safe as familiar, even if what's familiar isn't what's best for us, right? Like it's not serving us. But when we're chasing a goal, the ego isn't actually chasing the goal. It's running from something, right? It's like a past feeling that it doesn't want to feel again. Oftentimes, like the people who hustle the hardest, that are like the overachievers, that are like forcing and like pushing so hard, it's often because they're running from something more than they're running towards something, right? It's like, I'm never going to be broke again. I'm never going to feel that alone. I'm never going to feel like I'm not enough. And so we grip and we control, we try to manipulate and maneuver. We try to look outside of ourselves for someone who can give us the answers, like the experts, instead of listening to ourselves or trusting ourselves. We end up spending money on programs that don't feel right. We start trying to force a path that doesn't quite fit. All because maybe we're trying to prove something, and even in striving to prove something, we're running from feeling like not good enough. It's all to avoid this feeling, this thing, that whatever it is that we're most afraid of. That's why we work so hard to control and to manipulate so that we don't ever feel the way that whatever it was that hurt us in the past. And that's why controlling your path is so exhausting. That's why so many people burn out or get frustrated and then end up burning down their entire business, or just giving up altogether, or running away on a hiatus, or like sabotaging themselves, because it's exhausting. You're not moving towards something, you're running from something. And you can run really fast, really successfully, and it'll still feel empty when you get there, because the thing you're running from was never out there. It was in you, and it'll always be there. Even if you accomplish whatever it is you want to accomplish, if you haven't actually looked inward and like healed whatever it was that you've been running from, like it'll always be there. The goalposts will just move. It'll never feel like enough. You'll never feel like enough. The difference between following what makes you feel alive and chasing from ego is that when you are pursuing something that makes you feel alive, that's where you are moving towards something that feels true. And chasing from the ego moves you from something you're afraid to feel. That's the difference. But even if we know that, because I have known that for a really long time, and I really did think that I had surrendered. But I still was kind of gripping some control, like trying to, I put so much pressure on myself to move at a certain timeline to get to where I wanted to go, and it needed to look a certain way, and I expected it to. So I continue to see that in myself. So this isn't like a perfect path forward. I think it's like a constant evaluation and a checking in with yourself. Like, am I still like trying to force and grip? Like, what does it mean then to really release control and surrender? Like, what does that actually look like? And I want to be clear, surrender is not giving up or being passive. The way that I think about it is like, it's like a navigation system, like you put in the destination, where you want to get, you have a target, but you are willing to take the alternative route if need be. Like if you hit traffic and it's super congested, like you have two choices. Like you can grip the wheel, grit your teeth, stay frustrated, or you can loosen the grip and accept the pace. Enjoy the view, take in the scenery. Or you can choose to get off the off-ramp and discover a totally different route and view. Like control comes from a place of need. I need this to work. I need to be successful. I need to feel good. I need to get there faster. Notice how much, if you say that, how much energy, how much tension it takes, how much tension is in your body. Like I'm clenching my fists here as I say that. I was like, I need it to work out. I'm white knuckling it. Surrendering is being in a state of allowance, of acceptance, knowing that wherever life turns, you'll be able to meet it. You'll be able to handle it. There's a level of trust within yourself. Have strategy and routine, but also trust in something bigger that's got your back. It's like having a direction, but not gripping so hard to the steering wheel, knowing where you're headed, but being willing to accept the length of time that it takes, or the fact that you might not never get exactly there, that you might end up somewhere else overlooking a different view. And trusting that that's okay too. Maybe that view is one that you had never even imagined or expected, and it's even better than the direction that you were headed in. I think once we operate from that energy, that's when the grip loosens. Not because you stop caring about the destination, but because you stop needing it to protect you from something. And that's when we are in that energy where we can call in things, we can see different possibilities, we can look at different opportunities, we can be invited to things and be like, oh yeah, maybe I'll entertain that because like that could be good. Right? Like that might feel good to me. Follow what makes you feel alive. Notice those things, right? How do you know what makes you feel most alive? This is like as soon as I even asked that question, something in my body, like I literally just started like jumping, like my whole energy just shifts as soon as I think about that, because I know that feeling, and I bet you know it too. Like what lights you up? What makes you smile? What do you get lost in? What makes you flow? It's like the biggest indicator. What do you get lost in? What feels like play? What brings you joy, even when it's hard, even when it's challenging? And noticing like that there's a sensation in the body when we come alive. It's almost like I feel like I'm exploding with elation. Like there's like this giddiness. Like even in the aftermath, it's still there. It's with me. I feel that. Ask yourself, What would I do more of this month if I stopped thinking about what I should do? And what would make me feel the most alive? The answers that come to you, those are the breadcrumbs. Those are the dots. As you follow what makes you feel alive, I just think so much can open up. Even years ago, I was probably in my early 20s. I had quit my job and left my boyfriend. I said, I'm moving to Southeast Asia. I followed what made me feel alive. I traveled solo, backpacked for a year, and I met incredible people. And I just had this zest and this curiosity about the world and life and this excitement. It just opened up so much in me, just in terms of my own courage and my confidence to navigate all these different countries without knowing the language, and to be able to just kind of trust myself and figure things out as I go, not really knowing where I was staying some nights. I would just kind of figure it out. And that lit something in me. That gave me such a voracious appetite for what life could be, what life could offer, and made me want to explore and go after more, bigger, live a bigger life. When I followed my aliveness with podcasting, I found more of my voice. I fleshed out my ideas. I started to better understand my own thinking and seeing the way that I love to express myself. When I followed my aliveness with creating content on social media, even though that one was always the freaking hardest one for me because I had such a wound of being seen and being misunderstood, that when I followed that, it opened me up to my vulnerability, to healing. It deepened my expression. It deepened my ideas and allowed me to be creative and allow other people to get to know me. As we follow that and that energy, because it opens up something in us that just feels so true and aligned. You feel so alive doing it. That attracts something in energetically, and other people see something in you, and it creates momentum because you actually enjoy what you're doing and you want to do more of it. And that can open up doors and possibilities. That's when I've noticed, as I follow my aliveness, that's when I connect with more people. People resonate with me. People have invited me to be guests on their podcast. People have asked for my coaching. And I'm still I think I'm still in the newness. I've done a lot of understanding about myself over the years. And I've done a lot of private work in terms of healing myself. But now in this year, I've really begun to open myself up to visibly pursuing the things that make me feel alive. And so I'm very curious and excited to see what opportunities open up for me over the next few months as I really lean into this. As we move towards the things that make us feel alive, that purpose, that's how purpose comes through us, not as an outcome that we have achieved, but something that reveals itself, something we notice while we're following what lights us up. And I think that's what's happened with those stories that I told you about at the beginning of the show, that these people said, this girl walking past the park, ooh, art, I want to be creative. And she saw something in that kind of lit her up. So she kept doing it. And then what did it lead her to? Or the girl who had, followed her, what made her feel alive was maybe the fashion aspect. Those people were just saying yes to the things that felt good and right to them in those moments. And that led them to the thing. I don't have all the answers. All I can tell you is that that's what I believe. That's what I believe. And that feels true and it feels right to me based on my experiences so far in my life and what I'm doing right now. I feel so freaking alive when I'm recording my podcast sometimes. I know that this is right. I don't know what it's going to shape into. I don't know what's coming, but all I do know is that I love doing this, and I'm going to continue at doing something that I love, and I'm going to strive to get better at the things that I love and enjoy. And in doing that, I want to believe that that's going to pay off somehow. And because deep down in my bones, I believe that this is what I'm meant to be doing. All I can do is follow that inner pull and listen to my intuition and let that guide me and say yes when the opportunities come to push the envelope, to grow even further in this pursuit. Now, I spent so many years like trying to find my purpose, like chasing it, waiting for it to feel like I've arrived, and doing all this like forceful kind of energy and push to get there. And it's good that it's gotten here. But I want to try a different way of going about things. I want to stop gripping the wheel so hard and realize that purpose is unfolding as I move through my life. Stop trying to find your purpose. Start following what makes you feel alive. I think that's the true work, or play. Coming home to ourselves. Following what makes us feel alive, and trusting that purpose comes through us, not as an outcome that we achieve.
Hey there, thanks for tuning in. If this episode hit home, spread the love. Maybe share it with a friend or drop a comment. I'd love to know what landed for you. And remember, your voice matters. Whatever you're holding back, say it anyway.